Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. We have a new analyst that has just came in and has increased their buy rating for Palantir Technologies from $30 all the way up to $50. We're going to be talking about this, also mentioning some of the other economists here and analysts talking about what they are expecting for PLTR and how this correlates with some of the other headlines that could be a little contradictory depending on your opinion and perspective. Also, how does this all intertwine with the CPI data for August? That report is going to be released tomorrow, which that is going to be even a bigger variable with not when is the Fed going to cut interest rates, but by how much they are going to cut them. This brings a lot of uncertainty regarding the goal of a soft landing for the economy. If you are a new or returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. Now, Palantir Technologies closes here at 34.76, doing well, holding above the 33 resistance point that we saw and sitting at these 52-week and especially multi-year highs. Now, why this is important is because we're seeing the S&P 500 inclusion effect being reflected before our eyes. We're seeing the momentum that is continuing, and even with the market that basically was pretty stable today with trading volumes that decreased, Palantir at 91 million, that's still well above average, but that came in at 150 million the day prior. That's because a lot of investors are waiting for that CPI report. Now, one thing that I want to talk about is what's going on with Palantir stock across the board. You have Alex Karp that came out with that video. If you guys haven't seen it, look it up, regarding the success of the inclusion of the S&P 500, which he referred to as one of the most important institutions in economic life. And they basically structure their company about what you ought to build, not only what are you told to build. And talking about this occasion, it's not just for them, but it's for the partners and everybody who relies on them, talking about the investors, saying that there is no better metaphor for joining the S&P 500. Now, here with the buy rating, B of A securities analyst here, Mariana Perez, maintained a buy rating on the stock and raised the price target from $30 to $50. You also have Dan Ives from Webush, who always has maintained particularly a bullish perspective on PLTR, says that the inclusion to the S&P 500 is a boost to adds boost to its profitability, and called it another validation moment for the PLTR story. Of course, if you missed it in yesterday's video, Palantir also extended its contract, or basically had a large extension here with BP, bringing AIP to its company, and the agreement will introduce new artificial intelligence and how AIP is going to assist BP to safely and reliably harness large language models to improve and accelerate the business and everything that is within the inner workings of that. And that leads me to where is the price prediction right now for PLTR. In terms of the 1-year price target of a kind of basically median average of all the analysts, 1-year price target is 27.79. Now, sitting at 34, representing an expected downside of 20%, that is where a lot of people are sitting at. And one of the biggest pieces is, of course, the criticism about the valuation. And I think that is important to acknowledge. Of course, great to see here Palantir is on the high. But what we do see here, and why people are starting to say, oh my gosh, this is PLTR's exit liquidity run, is because you have the chairman, Thiel, that has filed to sell up to $1 billion worth in the stock. Now look at the report here. Initially made this disclosure in August via an investment vehicle, basically saying not selling or has not yet sold any Palantir shares via this rule, this 10b5-1 plan that was put into place. But however, they adopted this rule right here on May 15th that would allow for the sale of approximately 28.6 million shares of Palantir by December 31st of next year at the latest per the filing. Now, when he sold, shares before. Company executives sell shares all the time. You see this. A lot of people think this is uncertainty coming in here. Is this the sell-off moment? Is this the high for Palantir? I usually personally don't take these too much to heart. And that is because they're profiting, selling some shares that they maybe have for a while. And there can be many, many different reasons why executives, top people in the company, why we see them filing for selling shares. So this is not something that gets me personally worried a ton. However, how does the market react to that? That's only going to come with time. And it'll be interesting to see, especially with PLTR, that of course has now had the S&P 500 inclusion momentum that has been pushed behind it. And that rebalance doesn't even take into effect until a few more weeks here before the open of September 23rd market trading day. Where does Palantir stand? We have buy ratings that are increasing, looking well, but people that are kind of using that as a hypothesis is this exit liquidity possibly for some of these executives. What do you think about all that? Leave it down in the description. It is an interesting theory. Now, next earnings is until November 1st. We still got about 2 months. Earnings per share, 9 cents. One big bullish thing that we are seeing, 11 earnings per share revisions in the last 90 days. Now, talking about that, Palantir and the competitive advantage is being on top of its game, boiling down basically to the depth that they put into their ontology. They use the example of BP, the pressure system, talking about the addition to the S&P 500 as very exciting and brings a lot of exposure to Palantir and explains that moving forward, there's a few things that can top of mind here, but continues to think that Palantir, working in the governmental space, the commercial space, continuing to really do very well on the earnings reports. Balance sheet is looking well. Still, lots of bullishness in the long-term perspective. And talking about what's happening in the market today, like I had mentioned before, we see basically S&P 500, NASDAQ holding decently steady. You got the futures dipped about 1.1% right now. You got GameStop dropping 10% after they filed an agreement with the SEC basically here, allowing it to sell up to 20 million additional shares to most likely raise funds. But in terms of CPI, economists right here, they expect the headline CPI to have risen 0.2% from the previous month and 2.6% from the year prior. What this relates to is possibly a 25 to a 50 basis point cut. Right now, the futures trading suggests a 69% chance of that 25 basis point cut and a 30% chance of a 50 basis point cut. So 70% chance to a 30% chance. Talking about here, they don't think the reason a 50 basis point cut, that would be an admission of guilt, basically saying, is that too risky in terms of possibly putting the economy into a recession. However, we are seeing a lot of people that are starting to become a little uncertain that they believe every day that the rates at these levels increase the odds for a recession. So only time will tell. What do you think about all this? What do you think is going to be happening in the CPI data report with the price targets? Where do you see PLTR within the next week and especially by the end of the week? I want to know what you guys have to say. Peace out, take care, and I'll catch you guys later.